In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold. The Abracast. Occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Hey, welcome everybody. Tonight we have Alexx Bollen on the show. Alexx is an author and a podcaster. He has a show called The Alexx Cast, and John and Alex Hate Everything. You can find his work, including his new comic book called Wyrm's Edition, at alexxbollen.com. That's ALEXX, bollen.com. Alexx, thank you for joining us this evening.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. So I need to apologize for having to reschedule so often. My wife had like this Hiroshima-like bipolar meltdown in the quarantine conditions. So I appreciate your patience with that.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm being in quarantine, trying to be a writer is blowing my head up too. I'm having many moments of forget this. I'm done. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to watch Doctor Who and drink wine.
So you're in Portland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're from the East Coast somewhere? Where are you from?
Yeah, well, I grew up in New Jersey, like northern, New York City suburb style New Jersey.
Okay, all right. And you're in Portland. How are you doing with the quarantine? Are you guys locked down out there?
We're like everything's closed except for quote unquote essential stuff, which they are really loose on what's essential. So it's kind of liberal Portland stuff where they don't actually want to impose anything that'd be helpful. So it's it's fine. Our cases aren't too bad right now. So
yeah, that's good. I'm in Pittsburgh and they're just starting to loosen up all their regulations and stuff. So hopefully this is light at the end of the tunnel for all of us.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. They're talking about opening things back up again. It's just I haven't lived anywhere else in a long time, but this city is real dumb when it comes to young people. And like even during the height of the quarantine, just every park was just filled with people just laying around, spitting in each other's mouths, just everything they tell you not to.
Great. Okay, so my first question that I usually do is I ask people if they were born or raised in like a religious environment.
Yeah, I was abused. Not I shouldn't say that in this terminology, but I was raised a Catholic, which I think is child abuse. It is awful. And if you have a child that has any kind of free thinking, do not raise them Catholic because you give the idea that you're going to burn for all eternity. And if you're someone that has any kind of imagination, you get your head around the concept of what eternity is, and then you have like neurotic issues for the rest of your life, or at least as many years as I've had a life.
Yeah, I was raised in a broken home. My dad was a Catholic and my mom was a Southern Baptist. So I got hellfire and brimstone every other weekend. And wrapping your head around eternity and the idea of this kind of like loving God, enough so he doesn't fry your ass when you die. It's some weird things to kind of get your head around. Do you think that being raised Catholic kind of informed you or helped you get to where you kind of are today?
I mean, in the way that what's the phrase? Swords are made through fire, kind of thing. Where, in reaction to it, I think it helped me get where I am. But I mean, I would, for as much as my reacting against the church and it put me on a weird path that I'm thankful for. I much rather be raised in any other situation. Not any other. That's a huge exaggeration. But boy, I'm 39 now. I've done years of weird magical work, and I've read every kind of religious thing you can possibly read. Like, my head is so far past thinking of Catholicism as real, but I still have like a niggling 2% of my brain that's like, yeah, hell's probably real and you're going to rot for eternity. And it shows up every now and again. And it's, I mean, really, it's like PTSD. I mean, and I don't mean that to demean PTSD, but it is like, I can't get that thought out of my brain fully. And that has held me back on a lot of levels, but also it helped me open my eyes. Cause I think if I wasn't raised in such a, visually easily awful religion, I don't know that I would have reacted. Like, if I was in like one of those laid back, like the pastor plays guitar houses, I don't know that I would have reacted as strongly and found like cool magic stuff as quickly.
Yeah. So I don't even know if you kind of describe yourself in any kind of way, but would you say that you're a magician or an occultist or a researcher? What do you define yourself in any kind of way like that?
Not really. I mean, if asked, I say like, some kind of chaos, magician or whatever, but I hate that term. I don't really like descriptives. Like, I don't like belonging to stuff, even if if it's accurate. It just kind of like, the more if I start thinking, oh, I'm a spiritual person, the next day I'll start believing in science. Like, I don't like belonging to things. So I bristle against it and will, go immediately to the other side.
Yeah, it's this fight about against being put in a box, I think.
Yeah. And I don't like, because there's a lot of like, weight that goes beyond stuff. So like, if I say chaos magician, where the original chaos stuff, like the first writings were just like, hey, magic's a little too strict. Let's be weird and use our will, and you don't have to worry about scripture and all that stuff. I still think that's accurate. But now there's been 30, 40 years of idiots thinking that chaos magic has a dogma and thinking you're doing chaos magic wrong if you don't do your sigil this way or whatever, where I can't say chaos magician because then they think I'm one of them, right, instead of just being the actual thing, which is supposed to be a reaction away from, dogmatic kind of structuralized magic. So yeah, I'd rather just go like, yeah, I don't know, I'm just me. I just do weird shit.
Yeah.
Oh, I can swear, right? Sorry, I forgot to ask.
Oh, yeah. Say whatever you want. Yeah. Okay. So how did you go from Catholicism to doing weird shit?
I was getting towards confirmation, and I just stopped going. I remember my priest called, and I made up some lie, and it made me feel somewhat awkward. But I didn't want to be confirmed, which I'm super happy that I didn't go through it. And just trying to find something else to kind of try to figure out what the world actually is. And I bounced around for years upon years. And I think the thing that really did it was reading kind of fiction, was different kind of magical and philosophical tracks in fiction that kind of made me, I don't know, just view the universe as something more odd. And then I started to find like the first thing I kind of hooked up with was Buddhism, where I like the kind of, and not, again, it got all structured and weird, but like, just like the crap that Buddha said, quote unquote Buddha, is rad, just like, yeah, don't get attached to stuff. There's Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, pretty straightforward. Life is suffering. Like, boy, this is I'm reacting to this. And then I found out there's, hundreds of years of Buddhism that, people acting like fools on top of, where it's, I can't believe in that stuff. But that's kind of, I just started reading everything I could to try to figure out what I believe in. And I mean, I'm still doing it. I'm 39 now, and I still don't know that I have like a thing, nor I don't think I'm ever going to settle on one unless I finally start that cult I've been talking about for years.
Well, that's the goal, isn't it? We all just want to start our own cults. So for me, I think it was like, I think Gnosticism was the thing that kind of got my fire going. I think, cause I haven't really ever been very philosophical, and that's something that I'm working on. But it's something, like the rebelness, the heretical part of the Gnosticism stuff, I think I really could kind of got behind. And then it just kind of like spiraled outwards to all different kinds of weird stuff from there.
Yeah, totally. I wish I had found Gnosticism earlier. This is the thing I've kicked myself in the head about just forever. I was at a bar when I was 21-ish, maybe 22. And me and my buddy Rick, it's this really incredibly dive-ass. I mean, when I say dive, I don't mean like, hipsters are drinking Paps. I mean veteran alcoholic dive. And we were talking to this guy that was a Gnostic Catholic, believed in like Gnostic stuff. But I was just an arrogant idiot 21-year-old. And I got in an argument about how Catholic was a dumb term to use because he meant it as, universal, which is where the term came from. But I was just some idiot 21-year-old. And then 15 years later, when I actually got into Gnosticism, we started reading about it, I remembered this guy and having that conversation. I'm like, oh man, I could have skipped like 10, 15 years of stuff. I mean, I probably would have read about it anyway, but like I would have found something because when I found about the whole like Yaldabaoth, like, the Old Testament God is actually like this, inbred demon idiot. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like it's a lie. And it's like, it was very liberating to me to read that an ancient philosophy or an ancient religion believed in that. And yeah, I still I'm annoyed that 22-year-old Alex didn't listen to that guy or at least read a book because boy, that's a nice thing to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. As you start wading into it, for me, like more and more stuff kind of, clicks. It kind of makes sense. Like you were talking about, like the demiurge being like the blind idiot and all this other kind of stuff. Like I can kind of get behind that. I think that's kind of where I got it. And oddly enough, I started at Holy Blood, Holy Grail. That's the whole where Dan Brown got the Da Vinci Code stuff.
Oh yeah. No, that was like a huge book when I think I read that in like middle school. I was way too young to read it, but like, yeah, that was when I was very young. That was one of my early conspiracy weird books.
Yeah. I think that's kind of where I got it, where I kind of got started. Now, before that, it was all like, the Illuminati, Freemason, conspiracy, all that kind of stuff. But I think I really got serious about it with that. So that's always interesting. And you're an author. You have a couple books, right?
Yeah, I have a novel called Periphery, which is magical realism, super strange, a lot of Gnostic stuff referenced in there. And I've got a short story collection called The Theravada Machine and Other Stories, which are the two kind of major works. I've got another thing called The Void Sutras, but that's all poetry and little short prose. No one wants to read that, but I mean, it's pretty good if you want to read it, but yeah, it's very old at a first attempt. It's one of those, it's up. You could buy it if you want to, but I try to sell the other ones.
Yeah. I have a couple like that too, where I'm like, well, if you're a completist, you might want to get the 23-year-old graphic novels, but really, just pay attention to some of my newer, stuff. I think that's probably pretty common. But so you just published a comic book, and I'm a comic book guy, and I don't think I've ever had another comic book author on the show before. So I thought that would be cool kind of thing to break and have you come on. So have you always been interested in comics?
Yeah, well, sort of. I went through a massive comic phase in the 90s. Where, I mean, the entire world was in a comic phase back then. And I've read comics my whole life, but like, I've only really read like modern comics. I've only read like kind of the major ones. Like I've read Saga and, kind of Alan Moore and the names that like kind of regular people would know.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying like, just kind of the big name stuff is what I'm familiar with in like kind of the past even 20 years or like, major Batman lines, stuff like that. So I like comics a lot. It's a combination of expensive and, I have other stuff to read, and in my kind of hierarchy of what I want to put in my brain, comics are totally on there. They're in the top 10. It's just, that means there's, probably 9 other things fighting for that space. So yeah, I'm not super learned of the modern world, but yeah, I love comics.
Cool. So tell, kind of do the pitch for your book. What's your book about?
Well, this is the first issue of we've got 5 issues planned so far, but it's kind of forever running. Called Wyrm's Edition, and it takes place in a fictional Portland. I live in a neighborhood in Portland called Ladd's Edition, and if you look at it on a map, it looks like if a sorcerer designed a neighborhood to perform a spell. It is this weird. There's a circle at the center, and these radiating lines coming out with these inner seas, and it looks like it's made to like channel some kind of ley lines or chi or something. So
So I heard you on the Arnemancy podcast talking about this, and I actually had to go Google it because it sounded so interesting, and it's exactly like you say. It's like one of the earliest like planned units like ever, and the guy who made it, he was the one-time mayor of Portland, and he kind of donated the property and built like this weird sigil like square area, and it's fascinating. It's a fascinating looking thing. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to wrap your head around it, like it's exactly what he's talking about. It's like it's something right out of a movie. Like it's like something that that Ghostbusters would have, to attract,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've lived in this neighborhood twice now, and I just had this idea of this being this magical thing, and Portland's where I've done a lot of my kind of magical work. And that sounds far more highfalutin. I don't do big major stuff, but like it keeps coming back to I wanted to write a story about this area, and I kept going to the idea that it's visual. So I wrote a comic about it like 7 years ago, and I couldn't find an artist, and it's just one of these. It's been percolating in the back, and like I just kept like every few years, like I'd have one of those Facebook reminders, like, "Hey, 2 years ago you asked if anybody was still wanted to read your comic, wanted to draw your comic, I should say." And I met this guy, Eric Millar, who does the art for the book, and his art is terrific. It's just this super weird. Check him out. He's on Outlet Press on Instagram and every other place. His art is just super weird, and he's got occult overtones. It's like David Lynch and the occult kind of fuck. It's great. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So I kind of pitched it to him, and he liked my work. He was a big fan of my writing and listens to my podcast, and he was into it. I'm like, this is awesome. So I got my fire going and kind of wrote it to fit his art style a little bit, to, kind of finalize the stuff. And yeah, it's just, we're trying to do like, it's kind of like The Tick meets John Constantine, where it's kind of funny, but there's also, there's real underlying magical stuff behind it. And it's more like kind of hints at, which, I guess now in the age we live in, it's not as unique, now that we're on season 20 of Supernatural and every other show has Baphomet as their title, but it's kind of that idea that there's legitimate magical stuff kind of referenced in it while being somewhat humorous.
Yeah, so it opens and closes on the striking kind of sigil. I thought that was cool, and the story. Well, first of all, your artist is delightful. He, when I was looking at it, I was thinking it was kind of like Tim Burton-esque kind of meets Edward Gorey sort of.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he'll love to hear that. Yeah, he's really, it's kind of annoying that he's not, I'm glad he's not more popular because he actually agreed to do this with me, but like, he should be like famous. Like he's got a weird style. It's cool.
Yeah. And like the whole first part or the premise of the story is kind of like the beginnings of the alchemical process. Like this little character is, basically like falling apart, and the art is like real emotive, and you kind of really feel for this guy. And oh shit, it's like there's a quote, I don't remember who said it, but he was like, sometimes you have to lose everything to find the one thing that matters, and that's like yourself. That's kind of how I see at least this first issue of your comic. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to go for. Thank you for getting me back on topic. If you ever listen to my show, I just ramble and forget what I'm talking about. So the kind of the arc we're describing, without giving too much away, because since I know what happens in the first, whatever, because I'm writing the thing, it's kind of, I have to focus to like not give too much. But essentially the idea is this guy Simon is our lead character, has been kind of, he gave up on the occult. He just gave up on trying to make anything work. He's done with it. The last straw, and we meet him at his lowest of low. And we're just kind of following that story of what happens when you hit your bottom, and then what you said, like trying to find something. And since we all know the hero narrative, obviously something happens or he finds something. Not to give it a way. But yeah, we meet. The first issue is just introducing ourselves to Simon, and we don't really find out why he's given up, but he's just basically he's burning his notes and doesn't care about anything. And then we get introduced to the other characters and our main spot, which is Leopold's occult shop and arcade, which is an occult shop mixed with an arcade. And this guy Leopold, who's not called Leopold, runs it, and he's just a weirdo. And yeah, that's our kind of that's our people my age will understand this. That's our peach pit, you know. That's our library for coffee, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, is that based on a real place that's there in your area?
No, it's completely fictional. There used to be there was this really, really crappy bar on the outskirts of Lads, kind of where the apartment building is in fictional Wyrm's edition. But it was just awful bar. I don't remember the name of it. I think it was called like the Pirate something. There's multiple bars called the Pirate something in Portland, weirdly enough. And there's a strip club and a vegan strip club called Pirate something. But
a vegan strip club?
Yeah, there's multiple vegan strip clubs in Portland. Yeah, they all have like vegan leather on instead of regular stuff. I think that's how it works. I don't really know what makes it vegan, but I guess the food's vegan. Yeah. But there was this horrible place, and it had an empty kind of just room next to it. And in my head, I'm like, this seems like so like, I don't know, like I kind of wanted to, for some reason, the building spoke to me of this should be an occult shop. This just feels like this is the perfect kind of old and run down that there should be like a weird bookstore with an ancient tome in it in there. And just, and it's right on the outskirts of Lads. And that place has been knocked down and restored and, 3 times over, but it's still in the back of my head that it's there. So I kind of resurrected it in the comic book that there's this weird store.
Learn more at abracast.com. Get bonus content by signing up for the mailing list. Get all that plus many exclusive episodes by supporting the show at patreon.com or subscribestar.com.
The Water of the Art operation. So using the Magus, the celestial intelligencer, and operations from the Greater Key of Solomon and the Bible, I'm going to be preparing a large bottle of water of the art. It's kind of like holy water, but it's way cooler. Check it out. This is what the Greater Key of Solomon says. And know that wheresoever thou shalt sprinkle this water, it will chase away all phantoms, and they shall be unable to hinder or annoy anyone. With this same water thou shalt make all the preparations of the art. So I'm going to be collecting the ingredients needed for the operation on the days and hours specified in the book, and I'm going to perform the operation Wednesday, June 3rd at 11 p.m. And I'm also going to charge the water of the art under the full moon of June 6th. If you're interested in obtaining some of this water of the art, all you have to do is join the Patreon or subscribe star at the $10 tier. Being a supporter of the show on these platforms will also get you access to videos and bonus audio related to the operation. And I'm like, who wouldn't want some dope wizard water? Yeah, okay, so I love the use of color in the book. That was brilliant. I don't know if that was your idea, but it was very cool how it turns out.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was me. It's pretty much the only kind of art thing I really pitched. I mean, that's not true, but like basically I just left it in Eric's hands. I wrote a full treatment. We sat down, and I like his art. So I was like, I want this to be a collaboration between him and I. Like, I don't want to write Simon walks down the steps, Simon walks back up the steps. Like I want him to make it and for him to kind of do it with my treatment. So he did it, and we agreed upon character, what the character is going to look like, and went back and forth and stuff. But the one thing I kind of pitched that that was like kind of extra work for him is there's a spot where color comes in, and it's very meaningful. And I think we both went, "Oh, this is a great idea," because also, it keeps it black and white, which I think comics look really cool in black and white, especially like indie books. But having the ability to just have this little splash of color to have it be like smash you over the face with it, I thought it really kind of added to the impact of that scene. Again, trying to dance around what that scene is.
Right. That part is cool, but my favorite part of the whole book is when his bike doesn't get stolen, and he is just so depressed about it.
Thank you. I'm so glad that came. You have no idea how much trouble that was for us to get that idea across. Because the idea of having your bike not stolen in Portland to me is it's hilarious. Like it's the opposite of the way things work, and him being annoyed that his bike can't get stolen, and trying to describe that to Eric, and poor Eric having to get that across visually it looks great, but like that's a hard task. You're a comic guy, so you can probably picture it, but like I don't know how visually I'd get that across. So make him do it.
Yeah, it was like it reminded me a lot of like Charlie Brown kicking the rocks, sort of thing. Yeah, it was really cool. So yeah, congratulations and stuff. The book turned out great, and I really enjoyed it. You probably are tired of talking about this, but I wanted you to tell me the story about the cartoon demon.
Oh yeah, when you said you're tired of talking about this, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be cartoon demon. No, I'm not. No, I'm not sorry. I haven't talked about that in a while.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funny. I thought about that before when we were talking about Lad's Edition. So, a few years back, Eric Arneson of Arnemancy, he was just starting my Alchemical Bromance podcast, which was the predecessor to Arnemancy. So I had him on the show and on the Alex cast, and he and I hit it off like immediately. Like it was basically like, hey, come on the show, you'll be a guest. 3 hours of beers later, he and I are besties, and we've kind of been percolating the idea of doing like a magical work together. But I'm silly when it comes to stuff like it just. I'm not one to I'm not going to get in a robe and be all serious and speak in Latin. I mean, I will, but like, that's not where my natural inclination is. So I had the idea of, I think it was my idea. It sounds like me that of our work for a Halloween episode, we should try to summon something or like do a work. And we landed on, we should summon a cartoon demon. Cause that's the way my brain works. And we pitched ideas around, and finally we came up with the idea of. Oh wait, you're talking about the first one though, right? Because I forgot we've done this twice.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of rustling you into talking about both of them, but
okay. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. So the first one we pitched. We ended up going with summoning Marceline's dad from Adventure Time, the leader of the Nightosphere. Okay. Which I can't remember. What do you know the character's actual name?
It's Hudson Abadir.
Hudson Abadir. Like I knew it was something so stupid. I think that's why we wanted to do it. Is because it's such a silly name. So yeah, we met up a few nights before Halloween, and there's the ritual, quote unquote, that happens in Adventure Time, which is Finn and his anthropomorphic dog Jake. They drink bug milk. Or where they throw bug milk at a wall that has a picture of a smiley face on it and speak an incantation, and it opens up a portal to the Nightosphere, and then he can meet this giant cartoon demon. So we're like, all right, well, let's try to match this as much as possible. And we went on.
Where do you get bug milk?
Well, exactly. I think we left the audio at the end of either my episode or Eric's, but because it's a two-parter. One's on the Alexcast feed, the other's on the Arnemancy feed. But we looked around everywhere to try because I had heard a story about cockroach milk. That's the milk of the future. That they're going to use processed cockroaches to make milk. Apparently, the carbon footprint's a lot cheaper and blah, blah, blah. The only place we could find it is out of South Africa. And I'm not, like, as funny as this is, I'm not committing to the bit that much.
Right.
Now, a lot of people at home are going to find that statement weird because what we actually did was I found food-grade bugs on Amazon. Okay. And I ordered them and blended them up and mixed it with almond milk.
Okay.
So we have pictures of it on the website So I used a coffee grinder, ground up bugs and put it in coffee and put it in almond milk. I think it's almond milk. Who cares? Doesn't matter. But we mixed it up and used that as our things. And we also had some bananas as props, which is a reference to the episodes of the show that take place in the Nightosphere. And we took our magical implements that we've described, book milk and bananas, and walked to the center circle of Lad's edition, or Wyrm's edition, as hopefully some people that read the book will learn, and decided to do a spell. And we laid out some LED candles, and we were in the middle of a park with bug milk, and Eric had his tarot bat, which is a baseball bat covered in tarot cards. And we spoke the incantation. We laid out pictures of the smiley face and threw bug milk at it. And at one point, someone was in the park with us, and I can't imagine what they were thinking. So yeah, we did the whole incantation, and afterwards we walked to. Oh, this is strange. I did not plan this. We walked to the bar that's currently in the place of where I was describing earlier, where that dive-ass place where I thought the occult shop would be. That is now currently a different dive bar. But we went there afterwards and recorded his show, which he used to record at bars, about what happened and what we expected. And yeah, we tried to summon a cartoon demon. And
Cool.
I don't know that anything happened. We discussed afterwards what we thought the best result would be, and I kind of landed on maybe someone would walk through the park with an Adventure Time shirt on or something, or a yellow dog named Jake or something. Right. Small reference, but. Yeah, nothing happened, which is probably good, because someone pointed out later that we are, in the end, as much as it's a joke, we were trying to summon the leader of a hell dimension, which probably wasn't yeah.
So when you say that he used to record at a bar, I haven't heard any of those episodes, but did he just, would you guys just record on a smartphone, or did he have, a spot at the bar, or?
No, so he'd go to different bars and breweries and stuff. This is during, My Alchemical Bromance was the predecessor to Arnemancy. And it was beers and kind of the occult, or beers and magic, or whatever. I don't remember what he said. And it was him and some other co-hosts, which I never actually met the other co-hosts. As far as I know, the show was him. No offense to his co-host. I think I know one, and he's a nice guy. But the times I was on, it was just him. And yeah, you just bring a Zoom style recorder to a bar, and then try to find the quietest area and record with people about stuff. So that was that one. I think that was still My Alchemical Bromance. I'm not sure. That may have been Arnemancy. I think all the shows might be on his Arnemancy feed.
Yeah.
But it's easy enough to find. I think I have it linked. Yeah, it is. If you find the part 1 on the Alexcast feed, there's a link to the second part. But yeah, that was his old style show. So after the thing, we went and got drunk and talked about it.
That's cool. There's a comedy bar kind of in downtown here where they do open mic nights, and they have an actual podcast studio in the back. I always thought it was cool. I wanted to get in there and try to record in there, just because it's something different. So when you said they record at a bar, I was just wondering if it was that's something that happens everywhere and I just didn't know about it, or what.
No, that is my dream though. I've had this for a while, that if I ever had money, I want to start a bar and then just in the back of a podcast studio, because there's so many rad podcasters that would bring weirdo good people into bars, and it just seems like a natural pairing, but that involves a lot of money. So yeah.
Right. All right, so Summoning Demon Part 2, which was really good. I just listened to that the other day when I was getting ready to talk to you.
Oh yeah, so that was so we did the Adventure Time summoning, and then Eric and I loved it. We just thought it was just such a dumb idea that, and I mean dumb in a good way, that we have to do it again the next year. So over the intervening year, we were kind of pitching ideas of, well, who do we summon next? And there was another Adventure Time demon that apparently one of the characters, Peppermint Butler, summoned, which I can't imagine what this sounds like to someone that's never heard Adventure Time. But we just didn't want to go to the Adventure Time well again. So we landed on, we were going to summon the demon Etrigan from various Marvel comics. I think you're in Hellblazer. Was that his first? No. What's Etrigan originally from?
He's a DC comic character. Jack Kirby designed him, invented him, or whatever. And I think he was originally, maybe there's a thing about he was patterned after something that happened in a Prince Valiant comic. Remember Prince Valiant? They used to put it in the newspapers. I can't remember what he was he was like a background character in something, and then he wound up getting multiple miniseries and stuff. And he was originally based in Gotham, so it might have been Batman. He might have been a Batman.
Oh, that's right.
Character.
He has a lot of Batman stuff. Yeah, I know him from when he runs into Constantine. That's where my knowledge of him comes from.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of it, and I had the thought of, well, what we should do is the original idea was do the entire show in rhyming couplet, and then try to summon the demon Etrigan, because that's the demon Etrigan's thing, is that he's a kind of a middling demon in hell, and the higher you get in hell, the better you are at rhyming in the DC universe, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
So we decided to go a slightly different way. When basically we're like, all right, let's do this. Let's research him, figure out how he works and whatever. Eric Millar, the artist for Wyrm's edition, made some Etrigan sigils for us, and we placed them on the floor around my recording table in my apartment. And we did the two summonings that we could find from the DC books of Etrigan. And I think we may have had some like helly kind of incense going or something, whatever we could find to just kind of make it legit.
Yeah.
And we did the full summoning, and then afterwards we decided that, so we did that, and then to, hey, I'm going to break the fourth wall here, breaking kayfabe. But, we finished the episode speaking in rhyming couplets as if it has worked, and we are now rhyming demons.
Yeah, it was really funny, and I didn't expect the gimmick. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why. I guess I was expecting it to just go like straight, because you guys had talked about what you had expected with the Hunson Abadir thing, about the T-shirt or about the dog, and I thought that you guys were going to like look around and kind of try to dissect what actually happened. But I was delighted. Like I was actually cracking up when I figured out what was going on. It was really funny.
I'm glad that landed. Yeah, it's I thought it was fun because I was saying, like, I get too silly when it comes to like magic. I think magic's silly on a certain level. Like, I mean, we wear silly robes and often silly hats, and you speak in languages you most of the time don't speak. Like, I think I don't know. It's for me, it's hard to divorce the kind of inherent, kind of fun of it. And trying to take everything so seriously, it's just, that doesn't work for me. So I'm like, let's just do this. Let's go full professional wrestling. And,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I talk a lot about on my show, I talk a lot about this kind of stuff, the occult or magic or whatever, as psychology. And it always comes up that, we're kind of, we have play everywhere. Like we have entertainment everywhere, but it's like passive, where I think magic gives us an opportunity to have like creative play, and it's serious, but it's also fun, like turning your lights down and lighting some candles and doing some weird shit, you get amped up over it, and that means something, you know what I mean? Even if it is just silly or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, I'll just go ahead and say it because, whatever. I'll say dumb things. Blame me. I think magic is kind of like bowling, where if you join a bowling league, it's this whole ritual thing of you get your shoes, you get your friends, and you get psyched, and people get in arguments over bowling lanes, and it's this big serious thing. But if you take one step back, you're wearing dumb shoes, an idiot shirt, and you're throwing a ball at weird wood things. But at the time, you're really into it, and I think that's like, it's the same itch that magic scratches, or maybe golf or anything, where it's this ritualized thing and it's allowable play as an adult. And but it's guised in this thing that can be taken either seriously or taken a step back and go, well, wearing bowling shoes or a ritual magical garment,
Right. Yeah. So I think it, like I'm a sucker for the ritual. I'm a sucker for the ceremony of it. We mentioned professional wrestling a few times, and it's funny because I always equate it to wrestling boots, because I used to do indie wrestling, independent professional wrestling, and I look at the rituals and stuff as like wrestling boots, because do you need wrestling boots to perform, like to get out there and suplex somebody? And the answer is no. But it shows like a level of like commitment, like you said, like commit to the bit, so I like all the structure of it, but I can also see the fun of stringing some stuff together and stepping back from it a little bit. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, to use the pro wrestling thing, and that's a really great way to view it, is my magic is more like, those weird Japanese matches where that guy will wrestle like a blow up doll, or like that's what I mean. But the thing is, you still buy it. Like you're still you're still doing flips and doing the thing, but you're accepting the silliness.
Yeah.
And allowing the silliness to be part of it. And that's kind of what I like. I'm not making fun of anything because I wouldn't be doing it if I was making fun of it. That's what you do from afar. That's, it's the point of being a jerk.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. My wife's a practicing Wiccan, and, her kind of thing is like, there is no rules. Like, you kind of just do what feels right. I guess it's like folksy kind of witchcraft. And, that's awesome. Like, I love it. I love the stuff she comes up with. And, she's got a crystal collection that's amazing. And she could tell you like all about all of them and what each of them do and all of that stuff. But for me, like, I like to have like a little bit more structure, I guess, when I'm looking at the stuff. And I'm not talking shit on them either way. I think it's interesting that there's a spot for everybody's style. And the important thing is like this idea of like play or initiation, which we're missing in our culture nowadays. And I think that magic can fill a couple of those kind of gaps. Yeah.
The reason that I kind of go against the ritual, and I don't go against ritual, but the reason I'm kind of not as into the full ceremonial follow every step of this is I feel like, and it's the same reason I go against astrology to a certain extent, is I feel like at some point that becomes falsifiable. You start entering into science land. And if you have to do X, Y, and Z to make a magic thing work, well, that means that you can experiment and prove that if it works or not, because you have the instructions. It's like, like a recipe, if you take the yeast out, the bread doesn't rise. Well, if you have magic that has X, Y, and Z and take one thing out and it doesn't work, or if it works, you can now prove magic, which I think is intrinsically impossible. And I don't think you can prove it wrong either. I think what we're dealing with is, and I don't like using the term, but it's like, that whole quantum thing where it's like, if you look at it, it's not there, but when you don't look at it, it's there kind of deal, where it's kind of in a superposition of, but the second you get like, oh, well, I was born under this moon on this day and this, which means I'm this. Well, if you're not that disproves, the thing. The bread doesn't rise. The recipe doesn't work.
Right. So the way that I'm kind of relating to what you're talking about is, it's kind of come back full circle. Catholicism is full of weird rituals, right? I mean, I don't have to tell you that. So it's like, when they're taking communion, are you arguing that when the wafer goes in your mouth, it becomes the flesh of Jesus? Or are you saying when it gets to your belly, does it turn into the flesh of Jesus? Or like when it gets through your esophagus, I think that illustrates what you're talking about the scientifics of ritual.
Yeah, and the second you make, so like, I'm fine, like, I think a communion is kind of a beautiful ritual of going up, taking a piece of bread, taking a piece of wine, and remembering a guy that's important to you in whatever it means. I mean, you could be remembering your uncle. It doesn't matter. Like, that's a beautiful ritual. But the second they say transubstantiation, where the church said it is literally blood and flesh,
right.
it turns it from a spiritual or something that can be vague and beautiful and interesting to no, this is now falsified. This is now science land, and that's demonstrably false. And it takes away all the magic of it. It takes away. It just becomes this rote nothing. And that's what it was for me when I was growing up Catholic, where I did all the stupid rituals and I didn't know what they meant. I didn't care. It was just, you said, and also with you at this time, and you shook your guys next to your hand at this time and ate the bread at this time, and it meant nothing, because it's this rote, it's like stereo instructions from Beetlejuice,
yeah, Candyman or something. I understand.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have anything else you want to shoot the shit about before we wrap up?
No, I mean, no, just find my stuff, alexxbollen.com, ALEXXBOLLEN. That's basically just a link to everything I've done, books and my 2 podcasts. And, if you like movies, John and Alex Hate Stuff is my movie podcast with my co-host, John. We're slightly different from the normal Make Fun of Movies podcast, where we try to watch movies that are good instead of just, picking on the really shitty ones. Right. So right now we're doing a dive into Tim Burton and trying to figure out what went wrong by, watching the good ones and then maybe watching a couple of the crappy ones. So our next episode is going to be one of the crappy ones.
Cool, man. Well, thanks again for your time, and thanks again for your patience with rescheduling, and good luck with the book. I really enjoyed having this chat with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much.
All right, man. Ah! All right, Alex. Are you still there?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, man, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Was that long enough? I can come up with something else to yak about. I forget how long your things are.
Well, I usually go for like 45 minutes or an hour, but I never push them. Like, if it just ends, that's cool. Fine.
Yeah,
we're
cool. Close enough. Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Just send me links when it's up, and I'll plug the shit out of it.
Cool. All right, man. Take it easy.
All right. See you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
Hey, did you learn something? Did you laugh? Supporting me is a way for you to be a part of the Abercast and ensure its growth and sustainability. It also means I can create a normal schedule for shows and bonus shows, as well as the exclusive Fellowcraft episodes. By supporting the show, you are not only a listener, but you are a part of the show. You supporting the show gives me a way to offer fun rewards as a thank you for showing your appreciation and support for our projects. Do you have an idea for a reward that you don't see? Let me know. My supporters are my partners. I currently pay for you to listen to the Abercast. Not only do I pay the hosting bills out of my own pocket, I volunteer my time and talent to each and every episode of the Abercast. The price of books, the time and resources of reading and researching, the massive amounts of gin and tonic needed, the equipment it takes to record the shows, the time and resources it takes to create the bonus material, and the cost to maintain the internet presence. Is it worth your support? I don't know. I am proud of the Abercast, and I feel like I'm improving all the time. In addition to creating the show that you dig and that you are excited about, I also have a full-time commitment and other obligations. So why financial support? All of the supporters help me focus my time on the quality and development of the podcast. And what if you can't afford, $1 or $3 or $10 or whatever a month? Believe me, I get that. There are many degrees of support, but if you can't support the show financially, please consider leaving a 5-star rate and review on your preferred podcast app. And don't forget that you can sign into the mailing list and still unlock a lot of bonus content. Thank you. I cannot put into words how much it means to me that you listen to the show each time I post a new episode. Your feedback, support, and love of the stories that we talk about here is what keeps me going.